Welcome to Your Family's Health, the program that focuses on healthcare issues with unique and different modalities for taking charge of your health today. Experts talk weekly with our continuing roster of guests from around the country and right here in Nassau County to keep you up to date on the latest health issues and trends. Take care of your mind, body, and soul. Spend the next half hour with the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC, and get on the journey to better health.
Hello, and welcome to Your Family's Health. My name's Joan Buckley, and I'm from the nursing department here at Nassau Community College. And today we're going to talk about America's number one cause for disability. And it's something about 1 in 3 Americans have been diagnosed with. And you've all heard it. It's arthritis. Our guest today is Nancy Sorbella. She is the Community Engagement Director at the New York office of the Arthritis Foundation. So Nancy, welcome to Your Family's Health on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, you know, I was just telling you this topic is very interesting, probably because I know so many people that have it. But after looking at the website, there are many parts to this that are kind of difficult to understand. How did you become interested in really working so hard for an arthritis agency?
Well, I am a third generation sufferer of osteoarthritis. And so arthritis has been a topic of conversation in my home for many years. And originally when my mom was going door to door and collecting donations when I was really young, I thought, arthritis, like, what is that? She looks fine. Everybody seems to be fine. So I thought it was really not something to be, so excited about. And as I got older and I started to meet more people that suffered from arthritis, I learned about the various types of arthritis, which there are over 100. And I was quite shocked. And then when I was about 30, I started to have some arthritis in my knees from doing sports and cheerleading and just not taking care of things, stretching properly. And it really hit home for me. So I began volunteering with the foundation at their signature event, which is the Jingle Bell Run, something that is near and dear to my heart. And we have them all over the country in December. So I got very involved with that program and was the honoree in 2016, I believe. And from that point on, I was very passionate about, helping people with this disease that is silent, is invisible often, and is so misunderstood. So when the opportunity came to join the foundation, I jumped at it, and I couldn't love my job and the mission more. I do feel that at this particular time with the COVID-19 virus, it gives a lot of people a glimpse of what it's like to suffer from some of the more debilitating forms of arthritis, like rheumatoid arthritis and some of the juvenile idiopathic arthritis. And it is, those patients are often isolated, stuck at home, have limited access to just everything from medication to socialization, suffer from oftentimes mental health problems. And it really has resonated with me and our community so much. So that's kind of in a nutshell how I came here.
I never thought about it. You just brought up the idea of the social aspects of COVID and how, right, it probably is the way people that have limited mobility, they live their whole lives limited. And now people are experiencing it just because we can't just walk out the door and do what we want to do. How did COVID, is it one of the comorbid, they say people with certain diseases need to be really careful during the COVID epidemic or pandemic. Was arthritis one of the diseases that we had to be aware of as putting us at high risk?
Excellent question. And certain forms of arthritis, I would say rheumatoid arthritis, depending upon the extent of it, and definitely lupus, anything, and juvenile arthritis for sure. All of these conditions do create a suppressed immune system. So most of I would say the only ones not affected would be those suffering from osteoarthritis. That doesn't really create any kind of comorbidity or any vulnerability during COVID. But I really feel like the social part of this conversation and the mental health part of this conversation are so impactful, because we just launched in 2019 a groundbreaking patient-reported outcome survey called the Insight Survey. And it asks our participants questions about their everyday life, not just their pain, but their social and emotional components of their life. And it was so eye-opening. And then add to it something like, I live in the suburbs, but I work in Manhattan. And I take for granted taking the train, walking through through Grand Central Station, pushing open the doors and going upstairs and up into a building and an elevator. But when you suffer from different types of arthritis, just getting from the train to my building, which is across the street, would be really challenging. The doors are heavy. The different surfaces that you walk on can pose challenges for you. The crowds, just everything about the city experience that we take for granted can really produce obstacles for those suffering from arthritis. And this survey really spoke to that, as well as if you live in the country and you go everywhere by car, you might be in your house and lonely at the end of your driveway and you have nowhere to go, but you're in your home, but no one's coming to see you. And because your disease is oftentimes invisible, people really don't appreciate the kind of pain and suffering that you go through every single day.
You talked about arthritis, there being 100 versions or 100 different ways to identify the arthritis that you have. And you did talk about a few. But generally speaking, I think most people, and maybe it's just me, I think it's something that we all get as we get older. And I think maybe we need to understand a little bit about just what is arthritis.
Well, it is an inflammation of the joints in a nutshell. And I would say that probably every person will get it at some point in their life as you age. It's just from wear and tear and scar tissue, different things like that can cause osteoarthritis. And you can have varying degrees of it. But all of the other forms take so many different twists and turns. And we have 54 million Americans in this country suffering from arthritis, including 300,000 children. And oftentimes children can show symptoms and signs when they're babies, and it takes a long time for them to get diagnosed. And it's just still so many unknowns and such a challenge. So I feel like while we pursue a cure, we have to be spreading our message wherever we can about how to meet people where they're at with the different types of arthritis. Because now we even have fibromyalgia is considered part of arthritis, the arthritis diseases, and people have just been diagnosed with that over the last several decades. And a lot of people still don't understand what the options are for them. And just think about it this way. If you live in the New York metro area, there are tremendous options, resources, tools, and support for you. But if you live in way upstate New York or in Wyoming somewhere, for example, they might not even have a rheumatologist in your state or within hundreds of miles of where you live. So it could be very, very challenging just to get your checkups, your medications, and get the support that you need. So the foundation has created the Live Yes Arthritis Network, which is all about helping our patients live their best life with arthritis. And from that platform, we've created support groups, a network of professionals, and peer-to-peer groups that will help meet everybody, like I said, where you're at. So if you're very isolated, you can be on the phone with us. You can be in a physical, in-person support group, or you can be on a Zoom platform like we're doing right now during this pandemic isolation.
Wow. This is a perfect time for me to do a little identification. So you're listening to Your Family's Health on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Joan Buckley, and today we're talking about arthritis with Nancy Sorbella, the Community Engagement Director at the New York office of the Arthritis Foundation. So Nancy, before that little identification break, you were talking about one that, everybody's heart goes out to children. And juvenile arthritis is something that it probably presents, I'm assuming, because I've only met a couple of kids with it, but it presents differently in every child. What are the challenges for the organization that you represent, the Arthritis Foundation, what are the challenges for you to reach out to families and support them when they're dealing with a child that has been diagnosed with juvenile arthritis?
Well, there are many challenges. We do work closely with all of our healthcare providers and have created a very deep and valuable relationship with them all to have them refer patients to us. So that's one way that we meet our constituents and patients. We also do a lot of community outreach, and we get phone calls all the time through our helpline with parents who are challenged with their newly diagnosed children. And one of the biggest issues, I think, for families is that the disease takes so many twists and turns. So your child could have it and my child could have it, and they could present so differently. One can be living a completely robust, full life. The other one can be bedridden. And again, you can be feeling good one day and the next day you can't get out of bed. So it's a challenge to find, the right pediatric rheumatologist and then find the right medication, course of medication. And that is very challenging. I really, give so much credit to the families, the children, and the parents for getting through a lot of that. It is, it can be grueling, and I was part of a support group at a hospital this past winter, and some of the young women were talking about how they felt fine one day, they got sick the next day, they went on a medication they were thin and active, and the medication caused them to gain weight, and then they felt ostracized at school, and it was hard to explain to their friends. Arthritis, the only people I know that have arthritis are my grandmother, for example.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it is still a messaging challenge to those who are not aware of it, I think. And over the last 6 months, we've met some amazing young women in their 20s who have been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis at a fairly young age, and they have been really had a big role in transforming the way that I have thought about the disease. And they came to us and said, we see when we Google arthritis, we see old people, and what about the young people like us that are very active in our lives, but we have this problem? And they're playing a role in transforming, I think, the view of arthritis and what you can do with it. And they've all connected to our Live Yes network, because what I wanted to add before was that probably even 10, but probably 20 and 30 years ago, if you had rheumatoid arthritis or even some forms of osteoarthritis, you were headed for disability, and probably pretty fast. And now with the biologics and the different drugs that are out there, people with rheumatoid arthritis are living completely transformed lives. So there are a lot of possibilities, and we want to be here to give our constituents all the tools and resources to live their best life and to be able to feel supported and confident that they can do it. So they might not be running a marathon, but they can take steps every day to measure their progress and see how far they've come, which was not possible just 2 decades ago.
Well, I noticed that what you were talking about before, the Jingle Bell Run around the holidays and things like that. So those are all fundraisers to raise money for research in this area. And the interesting thing was, you said, I think in the very beginning, you said fibromyalgia 20 years ago wasn't even considered in the grouping of arthritis. What changes since you've started becoming, you said you volunteered, now you're working for the Office of Arthritis Foundation. What changes have you seen that really said to you, oh my gosh, everything I'm doing is so worthwhile?
Well, I could probably talk for hours on that in that topic.
But you have time.
But I would say that having seen people in my own family, like my grandmother, for example, and see how challenging it was for her to walk with knee problems and hip problems and fingers as she got older. And now I see people really finding the tools through medication, through through exercise. And there's so many platforms where we can provide support and help and get people over that finish line in a way that they couldn't even see themselves. So one thing I do, which is separate from the foundation, I teach aquatic exercise, and I do teach several arthritis classes, which used to be underwritten, I guess, by the foundation, and they've gone to a different platform now. But I will tell you that was probably the second most transformative experience in my life, seeing mostly women in my case come to these classes and feel empowered and see the difference that just getting out of the house and being with other people, socializing and doing a physical activity at your level of comfort has done. It's really, truly amazing. And I've seen women from 40 to 95. That's the oldest person I had in my class. I've had people on oxygen, people doing all kinds of things that believe in, when they find an activity that they believe in and they see that it's improving their range of motion and sort of lowering their chronological age in their own mind, and just making them feel part of the group, part of a larger group of people that are trying to have their best life in the 21st century.
Is there a story, a small story that somehow just has been really impactful for you? Just one person that turned around and said to you, Nancy, since, I've been doing these aquatic classes or whatever, do they come back to you? I mean, you're seeing it as an observer, but do they ever verbalize that to you and say, oh my gosh, I have my life back?
Every day.
I'm in control. Do they say that?
Every single day. It is the most meaningful thing I've ever done. A good example is I once was in the pool and teaching a class, and there was a woman and her daughter, older, both overweight, sort of floating around in the deep end watching us. And I said, oh, come join us. And they said, oh no, we're just here to cool off, whatever. And they kept watching. And I finally said, I really think you should just come over and try. And they came over slowly and they tried. And then the older woman, the mom, said, I really like this. I'm really getting this. This feels good. I can do it. So she stuck with the day. And afterwards, she came over to talk to me. And she said she had just come from the doctor. And the doctor told her not only did she have diabetes, she had high blood pressure, she had arthritis, she had 4 things. I don't remember the 4th. And he told her, you need to at least walk at the track. And she said, I can't. Oh, she had asthma. She goes, I can't breathe enough to walk around the track. And he was pretty angry with her, and she left and just went to the pool to cool off. And she took the class. And from that point, she started coming regularly. It totally changed her life. She became like a Pied Piper for aquatic exercise, not just for my classes. And she lost weight. Her pressure went down. I don't remember all the other benefits, but she made a whole bunch of new friends. And she was so confident. I felt like the slightest bit of being part of that transformation made it all worthwhile. And there's been so many women, they come and they say, I haven't worn a bathing suit in 20 years. I'm afraid to do this. I teach people that don't know how to swim. You don't have to know how to swim. But the fact that they can move their body and feel so empowered, it's like nothing else. I'm right now having withdrawal because I haven't been in the pool in 3 months because of the pandemic.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that did affect everybody. You're listening to Your Family's Health on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Joan Buckley, and today we've been talking about arthritis with Nancy Sorbella. She's the Community Engagement Director at the New York office of Arthritis Foundation. So, Nancy, we talked about aquatics, which I think is really good because you don't sweat. So I think that's wonderful. But what do you teach in your classes? How do they start? What is the first thing that you feel someone with arthritis who really needs control needs to know?
Well, I would say, one of the big pieces that we work towards is balance, right? I mean, in order to live your best life, doesn't matter how much exercise you've done, but you really need to have a strong core to stand up straight and have those strong glutes to really help you walk and have the proper gait. So we work a lot on balance. We work on stretching and breathing and balance to get started. And then we have 3 levels of exercise, beginning, a middle range and an advanced. But I would say the biggest benefit as you get older to these classes is the confidence. And when I say confidence, it's an inner confidence. It's not, I'm so beautiful and smart. It's a confidence that you know how to walk properly. You know how to possibly help yourself fall properly. And you can carry yourself stand up tall as best you can and carry yourself properly to get through your older age. And one of the things I thought was really interesting is a lot of women come to my class and they're probably in their 80s. So they were probably part of the group of women who were playing tennis, maybe riding bikes, maybe doing aerobic exercise, but they were the leaders of that group. They were in the beginning of that. And because they are not overweight and they've always exercised, sometimes they take things for granted as they age, and they don't pay attention to posture or core strength and balance. And it doesn't matter how thin you are or how many years you've exercised, you need to keep doing that in order to prevent falls, properly fall, and keep your bones strong.
Now, we've been talking about arthritis, but we really haven't given very much thought to the organization that supports all these things that you talk about. So Can you tell us, what is it all about?
We're trying to pursue a cure for arthritis by delivering our mission to those who need it the most. So in other words, we want to be in front of everybody, be on the cutting edge of research, resources, and one of the things that we do that's really important is we fund a fellow, a rheumatology fellow, because I'm not sure if you're aware, but there are so few people going into rheumatology these days that's a big challenge for the arthritis community to meet head on. So in New York, it's not a problem, obviously, but in other states, it is very challenging. So that's a big part. We work very closely with the rheumatology community to support all of the doctors and the professionals that help our patients, but we also want to bring as many people into that field as possible. And, we raise money for various things. We work on a lot of programs for support and education. We're known for our Ask the Doctor sessions where we work in partnership with drug companies to deliver a talk on rheumatoid arthritis or psoriatic arthritis or gout or osteoarthritis. We work with the researchers to bring the newest amount of information and studies to our patients. We help them access affordable medication, and we advocate in Washington and on the state level regularly for anything that affects our constituency.
Do you for pharmaceuticals, is your organization, do you promote, when you mentioned the drugs, I was like, oh my gosh, we're talking about a long life with many drugs included in a very long bankroll. So how is the insurance coverage for these drugs? I think I heard that they were kind of expensive.
They are very expensive.
They're very expensive. And, if that always seems to be an issue for someone, as you said before, not taking them or not even having them available. So how does your organization support that?
We work in conjunction with the drug companies, and they do offer sliding scales and promotional opportunities for people that are on income-based levels to access the medication. One of the problems is if you have a good rheumatologist and you have a good relationship with them, they will also help you. But some people are on the edge or just starting to feel that they have osteoarthritis, something like that, and they don't necessarily have access to all the resources. So we have a 24-hour social work manned helpline that fields calls every day, all day long, especially I think we've had a 78% increase since the COVID-19 pandemic of calls to our helpline because people get scared. People are isolated, like I mentioned before, and they definitely need to connect with us to help answer questions and direct them to resources. So that's a big part of what we do. We support the entire community around arthritis. We support the research into medications. We support the rheumatology community. We support the caregivers that help our patients and the the researchers and certainly our patients wherever they are.
Now, you spoke about volunteering before you took a real different kind of role with the organization, but how does someone volunteer for your organization?
It's the best question of the day. We are always looking for volunteers. And as a matter of fact, I think one of the things that this pandemic has brought to our attention is ways to further engage with our volunteer base to provide even more breadth and depth of programming and activities and events. So you can go to the Arthritis Foundation and click on your state or you're part of the state and then sign up and say, I want to be a volunteer, sign up and say, I have arthritis, I'm concerned about things. You become part of our network. And then depending upon what you've indicated as an interest or concern, the foundation has a professional reach out to you. But locally, we are always building constituency for events. We have if it were not COVID, we typically have the Walk to Cure Arthritis, which is a fabulous in-person event, usually in May. We just had the virtual Walk to Cure Arthritis on May 16th. Then we have our gala, which is a big event in most states, most regions. And it's a fundraising and opportunity to honor professionals who support the organization. And we have the Jingle Bell runs coming up. And so in between, we have lots of in-person programming, educational series, support groups, chats. Like tonight, we have a juvenile arthritis parent chat, which is open to anyone if they're interested. We send it out, we put it on our social networks, but anybody who wants to join, we can give them the credentials to sign in, and it's an opportunity to just chat with other moms and dads and children who suffer from juvenile arthritis. We also provide a free camp to juvenile arthritis patients at WH Ranch up in Lake Luzerne through the Serious Fun Network, a partnership with them. Does not cost anything for children 6 to 18. And of course, this year it's canceled, so we're offering virtual programming, but in the past, it's always been in person. It's amazing. And the foundation has 3 specific weeks where arthritis patients can go. We also do a juvenile arthritis conference. Typically, it would be around now. It's canceled because of COVID, but it's an opportunity for families to come together and connect and do interesting activities, learn, meet with all sorts of professionals, and just find their home within our community. So that's a very big space, and the juvenile arthritis parents are very connected. So it's a nice network, and we're always looking for more participation and to help as many families as we possibly can.
You know, Nancy, this has been a really wonderful conversation and about a topic. You made it sound so positive, the outlook for having arthritis. So I want to thank you, Nancy Sorbella, the Community Engagement Director at the New York office of the Arthritis Foundation. We hope you stay safe and continue to do the great work that you do here on Long Island. And I just wanted to tell everyone that you have a website, and it's arthritis.org.
Thanks, Joan, for having me. It's been a wonderful opportunity to talk all things arthritis with you.
So this is Joan Buckley from the Nursing Department here at Nassau Community College, and I thank you for listening to this week's edition of Your Family's Health.
We'd like to get your feedback on your family's health. Send your comments by emailing them to whpc@ncc.edu. Podcasts of today's show are available on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. This program was produced at the studios of Nassau Community College in cooperation with the Nursing Department. Join us next week for another edition of Your Family's Health on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.